All right. So I'm going to call down Mr. Johnny Nitafan. Johnny has been an agent for, what, 2 years now? Yeah. You may have seen him on Ultimate Agent with Cody Askins. Here, pull up a chair. Let's have a talk. And yes. So what we're going to do today is kind of go over his experience in the business and go into his production, what he's currently doing now. And again, if you guys have questions, want to know more about what Johnny does or how he's been successful, just raise your hand and Marty will run and sprint over to you to answer those questions. Thank you, Marty. So Johnny, tell us a little bit about yourself. Kind of open up who you are, what you do. Imagine the crowd here has never heard of you before. Kind of give you like a 30-second elevator review.
Yeah, my name is Johnny Nitafan. I've been a life insurance agent for about 2 years now, and I was very fortunate to actually stumble into the industry and get picked on the first ever reality TV show for insurance. And so you guys may be familiar with the Cody Askins, and so it was cool. We were on just pretty much like being able to get coached and trained by top agency owners and stumbled. That was my entrance into the industry. And so long story short, 9 months goes by and I wasn't doing so hot financially. And it looked great because I was on the top of the leaderboards, but I was going broke. And it's something that the industry doesn't talk about enough because it's just like it looks good on the outside, but then on the inside, what's actually going on, right? What's actually going on behind the scenes? What's the bank statements look like? So it looks like it's great, but then on the back end, it's like, dude, it's actually falling apart. So I almost quit the business 9 months into it. I was looking at real estate, pest control, different sales opportunities, possibly just going into remote closing. And then I started generating my own leads and really went deeper into becoming a business owner, tracking all my numbers. And that's really where the turning point happened. And so that was the beginning. And that's when I joined your team, actually, and pivoted fully into final expense. Telesales, January 2023, beginning of last year. And so last year issued $200,000 to $300,000 of approved business, and then ended up creating a community. So if you're in the community, just raise your hand real quick. There's a good amount of people. So created a community of agents pretty much to be able to help them own their lead source, but then also have the live dial rooms, have the Slack chats, have like pretty much create an agency without me incentive, like being the upline. And so the agents don't have to be with DIG at all. We help any agents and any company and IMO. So that's really what I help with.
Yeah, so in your position of coaching, right? So you've been selling over the phone predominantly. You started with face-to-face on Cody Askins, yeah. Right? That was it. After that, it's back to telesales, I believe. Where do you see the biggest challenges that new agents have with being successful over the phone?
There's no magical lead, and I want to echo a lot of the stuff that you shared because that is the formula to be successful. There's really no magic thing out there that's going to lead to success. It's really picking up the phone and choosing to be accountable day in and day out and mastering the inputs, because a lot of us want the outputs, a lot of us want the deposits, a lot of us want the results, but if we don't master the inputs and showing up every single day 8 a.m. or wherever you're at, right? Like when I started really trying to figure this business out and master it, I was getting up at 6 a.m. here local time to dial start 8 a.m. Eastern. And so it's really going from, like, I was going from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. because I was able to work both coasts. And so I think it's mastering the inputs. Like new agents, I see a lot of people struggle because they don't master that. And it's not really about the dial count necessarily, but if you're not doing 300, 400, 500 dials a day, and especially with like, when I first started, Austin and I actually were just like hand dialing from our phones. I just copy the number on my computer, paste it to my phone and triple it out from my phone. Little did I know, the contact rate was absolutely horrible. Phone number probably getting marked as spam all the time, no local presence. So now we have like Kixie, for example. It's like there's dialers out there that you can be dialing 3, 5, 10 numbers at a time, and 300 dials you could do in like 3 hours. So I think mastering the inputs and showing up consistently, even if the results aren't there necessarily yet, because you're going to be underpaid at first. But as you continue going on and putting the inputs in and you keep going through the learning curve, the more activity you do, the steeper or the faster you get over the learning curve.
So let's talk about, like, what do you think the top 3 things are that a new agent can do to really get the most out of their inputs. You mentioned like triple dialing or the dialer or things like that. If you kind of talk like what can agents do, the top 3 things to just get them the best results quickly?
I would say the first thing is actually getting somebody, like having somebody, whether it's your agency owner, whether it's like a coach, whoever it is, right? It doesn't matter necessarily. It's just somebody who's actually had results, been able to sell, and you can duplicate that process. I got a mentor early on, and like that really helped me speed up learning curves in terms of selling, because there's so many questions and so many things that you have to learn. How do you underwrite? Like there's 2 learning curves. There's a sales learning curve, and then there's the insurance learning curve. And so if you don't master both, if you don't get really good at both, you're not going to have success. So you got to have somebody who knows how to underwrite, knows how to actually get policies issued, not just sell them, but actually get them issued and paid into your account. So like that's the number 1 thing, is just get somebody like a mentor, coach, somebody who can actually help you throughout this process, because you're going to pay for it in time or money at the end of the day. The second thing I would say is actually dialing a full day. I mean, that's like a simple thing, right? But like basing and judging your inputs, not your outputs. And so the very first thing is like just working like a full day. If it's 8 to 6, whatever it is, just mastering the commitment and like making commitments, even if they're small, and sticking to them over time is the second thing. And then the third thing I would say is record your calls and actually listen to them. And this is like game tape, that like, this is the not sexy stuff. This is the stuff that really is truly, like it's stuff we all know that we need to do as telesales agents, but how much are we actually doing that? And like, how much are we reviewing other people's calls, like, or listening to other top producers' calls? I was actually talking with one of the top closers at Gym Launch, and so he's this is Alex Hormozi's company. A lot of you guys might know him, but he exited that company. I was talking to him, and I was like, what's your sales training process once you're coming in? Because he's closing like $1 million a month in revenue. So I was like, what was your sales process? And he's like, there was none. All it was is listening to game tape for 2 weeks straight. And so I think if you can listen to top producers' interviews or top producers' calls over and over and over again, and listen to their tonality, how they ask questions, and just observe and then start doing it, I think that's another way that people could speed up the learning curve as a new agent.
Yeah, I'll mention a couple things. First of all, go to Johnny's channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, he's got a good volume of him pitching on the phone, which is just a great reference point. We do too, if you want to check that out. There's a lot of that stuff that's just out there for free on YouTube. It's just absolutely amazing. Any questions so far from anybody?
I just want you to spell your channel so we can find it.
Johnnny, Nitafan, Nitafan. Johnny Nitafan.
Thank you.
What was it that was going to make you fall out of the business at that time? And then when you joined the DIG Agency, what was it that brought everything together?
Yeah, so great question. A few things involved with that. Very first thing is not tracking my numbers. Like that is something that like I'm so religious on, because if you want to be successful as a life insurance agent, it's marketed, and this is what kind of like annoys me. If you're going the broker model, it annoys me because it's marketed as a sales opportunity, a remote sales opportunity, which it definitely is, but like you're not a sales guy. You are a business owner. You need to own your marketing. You need to understand your numbers in and out like clockwork. And so big shout out to Chase. He actually has a master tracker of like tracking literally anything. Like this is gonna end tracker, like all trackers, but like this is like the master tracker that you would need, right? Dials, contacts, appointments, like the presentations, like tracking all these numbers from start to finish, right? So what's your lead cost? What's your cost per acquisition, like you were sharing? All these numbers are things that you need to be tracking, and I wasn't doing that. And so there was a moment that I was like, it was really scary because I didn't want to really look at like the credit card bills. I didn't want to look at like my bank statements. I didn't want to look at all that. And sometimes it's like the thing that we're afraid of, we kind of don't ever uncover. But sometimes when we uncover it, it's kind of motivating. Two things happen when you're kind of like, when I feel discouraged. I always go back to the numbers, and two things are going to happen. Either one, you're motivated, it drives motivation, or two, you're like, oh, you're encouraged. I'm actually doing better than I thought, because feelings in this business will take you out. With that being said, when I finally decided to do that, I remember like sitting in my room and I was like, I'm just going to break down every single number that I possibly can. Every policy that I've issued or written for the past like 6 months, I'm going to pull it out and I'm going to go into each commission statement behind the back office and see, did I get paid on this or not? And what was the commission on each one? It took me like 3 days to actually uncover everything, figure everything out. I had red if it charged back, I had green if it paid out and still in the books, and I had blue if it was sold but not issued and paid. So I had this huge tracker, and I put all my lead bills all in another tracker. I put how much I spent on those, like everything you could think of. And I looked, and I was like, I'm buying from 4 different vendors right now, and one of them is a clear winner. But I wouldn't have known that because it's like, these are expensive leads, but I'm getting the best return on them. And so with that also, I was like, okay, I'm $15,700 in debt right now. And I put each card, how much I owed on them. And I did the snowball effect, Dave Ramsey, like kind of snowball effect. And so I was like, how much each week would I have to pay off? Like how many weeks will it take to be able to pay this off? And so I pretty much just created a game plan from there. And I was like, if I am able to pay off like however much it is, like I'm going to do this. And I set an end date for myself. And so my goal was to pay it off in 3 months. And I went to my wife and told her, I was like, hey, I'm going to pay this off in 3 months. And so because I wanted to be able to actually hit that goal. So what I did in that time was that if we're hyper disciplined, we could pay this off. When I started generating the leads, I knew how to sell. I started doing that, and what's crazy is all that came together, and I started marketing myself and understanding that. All that came together at one time to where in the next 3 weeks after I started generating my first lead, I actually paid off all my credit card debt in 3 weeks. And so it was just kind of like this turning point that like, this is actually it, because I have a consistent lead flow, and at that point it was like $1.80 of a lead. And I was like, I'm gonna be so mad if it's $3 a lead. And now, like, look at it. I was like, I'm cutting the ads if they're $3. Anyways, but long story short, that's kind of like, that was kind of the turning point. I would say like, David definitely gave me some good direction, but I think it was really going and looking at my numbers, even though I felt like I've avoided it for so long and I was scared of doing it. But it was the thing I actually need to provide clarity on actions and creating a game plan to be able to get out of it.
Great. Excellent. Questions?
So Johnny, speaking to the new agents out there, would you recommend them to start self-generating right away?
That is a great question. It really depends on a few things, in my opinion. I think the first thing is when you do decide to fully start self-generating your leads, you do decide to become a marketer. And so if you have like no sales experience, if you don't know how to do that, either one, have somebody do it for you and kind of walk you through that whole process. I wouldn't do it yourself, to be honest. In full transparency, the reason I say that, especially if you're just starting out, is because you have to get good at sales. And a lot of people think it's a lead problem. When I talk to agents on a day-to-day basis, and a lot of times people think it's a lead problem when it's a sales problem. Like it really is when you actually dive deep into the numbers. And so for a new agent, I would recommend if you have somebody actually help you through that and you could just focus on sales at least for the first month or two, I definitely would recommend that. But I wouldn't just kind of like try to build both bridges at the same time because you're not going to get anywhere and it's going to get discouraging and overwhelming.
So let's go down the line of the presentation. You do final expense telesales. Pretty much what you coach now? Yep. Okay. Can you walk us through like an example of what a good opening script would sound like on the phone that can get the attention of the prospect and then keep them on the phone?
Yeah, so the very first thing is acting very curious. So like, hey, John? Yeah, John, this is just Johnny, and kind of like acting confused here a little bit. Yeah, it's just Johnny. I was giving you a quick call back in regards to the request you sent in on Facebook for the new state-regulated life insurance programs in Arizona. You listed and then referenced something of the form, and I like to name beneficiary just because that brings the moment back to the ad of what they saw or what they actually filled out. So I really want to hammer that right away, and then there's going to be objections that you might get. Or if not, you just kind of keep going. The goal from the very first start of the call is just to get them sold on staying on the phone. Because you can't present if you don't keep somebody on the phone. And so you say that, and then if they say yes, okay, great. Were you looking just to kind of cover those final expenses or possibly leave a little extra for the family? And they'll say whatever they do. Okay, just leave a little extra. Okay, great. And were you looking to go down more the burial route or more kind of the cremation route? And so you kind of you kind of like, is it this or that? Like you kind of want to, there's two ways to go about it. And it's not like whatever decision they choose, that's in your favor. Right? So like the only answer is kind of moving along in the presentation. So once I get those three, then I go into, okay, let me kind of explain how this process actually works. Super simple. It's really basic, like, and then kind of go into like explaining what's going to happen and then go into underwriting and so on and so forth.
Perfect. So what kind of objections do you get up front? And then how do you overcome them?
That's a great question. So I already got it taken care of. I didn't fill that out. I mean, it's rare that you'll actually get that. If you actually like are running your own, there's different lead vendors that you can buy from, and that may be the case. So I already got it taken care of. I didn't fill that out, or like, hey, I'm not interested anymore. A lot of it's like going to be that I already got it taken care of, or yeah, they just bang the phone, hang up. And so the way you overcome that, if I'm kind of like sensing that they're about to say I already got it taken care of, you want to what's the word for it? You want to, pattern interrupt. Thank you. So you want to pattern interrupt real quick. Perfect. That's the exact reason for my call here. Before you hang up, just wanted to close out your file here because it was still open for some reason. It was flagged. Did you go with the A, B, or C options? You remember? And then they'll say whatever they did, and they'll say, oh, I went with the B option. What company did you end up going with, by the way? And they'll say, just so I can close out your file, or you say, just so I can close out your file, and they're like, whatever it is. Mutual of Omaha. Oh, gosh, that's what I was afraid of. And how much were they charging you? And they'll say whatever. Oh my, that's why I'm actually calling. Okay, so it looks like we may be able to, there may be other options available. I just want to make sure you're in the best possible position here, and then kind of go into medically underwriting at that point. Because if you truly don't know, they might have gotten clean sheeted. Right? And what clean sheeted is somebody just puts no on all the questions, and maybe it's not, right? So like one thing that like I would say is doing policy reviews is super important to like just get the carrier on the phone and verify the information. Gonzalo is really good at this, and he's really good at understanding this, and he's able to like get through policies. He gets the carrier on the line, actually verifies, hey, is this a face amount? Okay, Miss Betty said she was not a smoker. Does that say on the application yes or no? And he kind of just verifies in everything to be able to go through that. And so I think that that's really important to be able to just policy reviews, because at the end of the day, that shows credibility and trust in you as the agent, but then also that they might have gotten into a bad policy, to be honest.
And that happens a lot more than you think, right? So you have to do the reviews. How does text messaging play into your strategy to get people on the phone?
It's crucial. If you don't have like a CRM or something following up on the background for you, you are leaving so much opportunity on the table, right? And so I think it's very, 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 very important. Like you need to have 3 screens kind of open at once when you're doing telesales. You have your insurance toolkits, you have your CRM, your script right there, kicks you open a little bit, right? And you have all these available right there, but like the CRM, right when they text, you should call. Like you should call them right away. Even if they opt out and say stop, call them right away. And because they're used to getting automated things that just like honestly don't mean anything, but like I would call them right away. It's very important because all you want is engagement. You don't want them to. You don't need to have a full-blown conversation. All you want is them to just engage and kind of buy in. It's a micro commitment to having a conversation. The goal isn't to close via text. The goal is to just get them on the phone and make them curious enough to be able to actually get on the phone. If they ask what's the price, you're not going to give them the price. You want to make that curiosity work in your favor so they actually get on the phone. You don't want to try to close on text. That's not the goal of it. The goal is just to kind of get them on the phone, be curious enough so that they want to have a conversation with you, and you can actually sell them on why this policy might make sense for them.
And what are you doing for closing? You know, you get through the presentation, you show them what it is that you got. Talk us through how you're closing that client to get their commitment on that first call.
So, couple things. The very first thing is what I say is I go over all the options, right? So the 3 option close, top or 4. So I usually do 4. So I say, hey, just so you know, and this is like, I'm not expecting them to buy this. It's kind of just like, hey, this is what's available for you. I just want to let you know that Great Western, or not Great Western, by the way, but we'll use Family Benefit for the sake of the example. Hey, Family Benefit, great news, is actually going to offer you the most amount of coverage for where you're at. I personally don't even recommend this for you, but I do want to just share it with you. It's $30,000, right? So that's the top option. I wouldn't even recommend it because you said, and I bring in what they want to do. So that's really tying it back to like what the desire is. The desire is to cover the cremation and leave a little extra. So this would do way more than that. This is the top option, which is $30,000 for $300 a month. Now, I wouldn't even recommend that for you, but I do want to share it with you just because I've had some clients in the past that wanted more coverage. And so that's a very top option. I personally wouldn't even recommend it. I personally crossed it off on my side, but I did want to share that with you. Now, the first option that I personally recommend for you is $15,000, then $10,000, $5,000, whatever it is, right? Each of them, typically what I do is middle option is the one that is going to be perfect for what they said they want to do. Most of our clients go with this one, XYZ, because it covers the cremation and leaves a little extra if that's what you're wanting to do. And so we go through that, finish that up. I kind of share exactly what it's going to do, share a price there, have them write it down. So in this time, you want them to actually you want to be leading them. You want to be viewed as a leader in each part of the conversation. So in this time, I'm having them write them down. Boom, write that down. Okay, 15,000 is for 63. 10,000 is for 42. 5,000 is for 29, okay? Before we even take a look at these numbers, let me kind of explain how this process works, okay? Even if you were to pick the most expensive option, right? That $30,000 option, which I wouldn't even recommend, and you put a gun to my head and said, Johnny, give me this option now, I couldn't even do it for you. Life insurance isn't something you can just buy. You actually have to qualify for it. And all we can literally do at this moment is actually pick a number that's comfortable for you, and then 3 things can happen. Either the first one is they instantly deny you. At that point, it's not the end of the world because we do have options with other carriers, and we do have access to all the A-rated carriers here in the state. Now, the second option is that the price changes slightly. Okay, it's not the end of the world. It may be $1 or $2. It's not the end of the world, but we would have to kind of see what other options might be available for you and your family. The third option, which obviously you and I are both hoping for, is that they approve us. Now, at this point, they'll actually send the policy out to you, and within this time, you'll actually have 30 days to make any final decisions to your policy. So say if you wanted to go up in coverage, you can definitely do that. But if you wanted to go down in coverage, you could still do that as well. So you're going to have plenty of time to talk about it, think about it, pray about it. Just don't fight about it for me, okay? And so the biggest thing is being able to find something that's comfortable and most affordable for you and your family. So based on everything I shared, which do you feel like would give you the most peace of mind knowing, God forbid, something were to happen, Miss Betty's taken care of? Go ahead and circle that one. Wait. And then you kind of just pause there. You say circle that one, let her sit. And which one did you end up picking? 10,000. Okay, great. So the 15,000, cross that one out. 5,000, cross that one out. And what's the best address to mail this policy out to? And right into the app.
Beautiful. Now, are you doing any kind of are you doing any kind of budgeting, or do you just throw out arbitrary numbers like 10, 15, 20?
Budgeting is huge. So there's the discovery phase. So there's underwriting, discovery phase. Right after the discovery, I go into affordability. So, hey, just so you know, Mr. Dave, I actually specialize with working with people on very low and fixed incomes. Would you say you're in a similar spot too?
Yeah.
Okay. And between you and me, that's probably why they got you over to me, because I actually specialize with working with people on very low and fixed income. So keeping affordability in mind, like what's kind of a good comfortable number, like even if the refrigerator were to go out, is a good comfortable number for you? Is it like $150 or $100 or 75? Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, it is expensive, right? I was just curious on here, and like a 75 or 200 or 250, like what would be a good kind of comfortable number even in a tight month, would you say?
Maybe $75. Maybe $75.
75 would actually get you more coverage than you would probably need, which is absolutely awesome. So, and then I just keep going, and then I kind of like in that time I'm going through building value at that point. Okay. So I note that in the back of my head. And then that allows me to determine where the pricing goes.
So in this instance, are you showing this like a 50, 7,500 roughly?
Oh, in that situation?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm 100%. Like that's really what I do. You want to go middle option, 100% in their budget, but you do want to have a lower option just because they may have overshot themselves, and you want to give them that kind of like way out that still is able to allow you to get a policy.
Sure. Great. Excellent. Questions? Presentation questions?
Hey, and this could be for either one or both of you guys, but two-part question. The first one is, do you notice more success with same call close or using that, a secondary call, maybe get the medical information first and then schedule a call? And secondly, when you get chargebacks, if you track that number, do you notice more chargeback coming from same day close, or if you were to schedule a call for a secondary?
They're same two call. What's that? Two call close? Yeah. You ever heard this? It's a joke. Oh. So, sir, I'm being joking. We teach our agents, and John, you can jump in here. The first call is the last call. You have to, now sometimes there's exceptions, right? But you have to have the mindset when you sit down with that prospect and they answer and they say, hello, you're in your presentation, you're closing them today. Today, not tomorrow, today. Johnny?
Final expense people. Living on the government. No life insurance. Some don't even have a bank account. These people don't make decisions. The likelihood of them actually making a decision a year from now is highly unlikely. It could happen. But if you think about the demographic, they've put off life insurance for 60 plus years. So when I think of that, this might be the only chance that they ever have to be able to actually get a policy, 100%, because they might have gone through that. And for them to, how I look at it is there's not going to be many agents out there that can compete in terms of me being able to actually help this client out, find the need and actually help them realize the need. So I actually find it more, I'm convicted about like, if this person were to die tomorrow, which has happened and could happen, that is a pretty scary thought. And so it builds conviction of like, there is this insurance, the industry, if you get really good at overcoming objections, the industry, you can't, like, nobody can really compete, to be honest. There's very few agents that actually know their objections left and right, that actually know how to overcome, that are going to be dogs, that are going to show up day in and day out. So, well, I say that because the next person they talk to, if I didn't close them, they're not going to be closed. That's my thought process. And that comes with, the conviction comes from that because I know what I'm doing. And so, with all that being said, they're probably not going to buy a policy. And so it's my job to be able to help build the value enough to be able to help them realize that they actually need to do it, and it's not something that they can put off any longer. And so it comes with discovery and helping them understand that, but I think it goes back to like just doing it today.
Yeah, and the other thing too that you can't measure, but I assure you it happens. If you separate the call into two, half, if not more of those will never show up for the second call that you would have closed, that would have kept their business, right? So by splitting it up into two doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have better persistency or less chargebacks. It's going to make your sales go down, and even if you had better persistency, your volume's going to fall through. Does that make sense? So just get it all done in one call as much as you can. Questions? Gentleman in the back.
Hey, Johnny. Nice to meet you. Darren. The question is, I like your rebut on Really quick, your file's still open. That's the first time I've heard that. That's genius. Yeah. I'm so using that. But the question is, so your file is still open. Just to close it, what option did you go with? They give you an option. And then you talked about getting clean sheeted, right? No to everything. Can you kind of walk us through, or perhaps role play how you would open that up to the prospect? There's a possibility that, you know, they answer something incorrectly. Let's call the carrier. How do you kind of get into that?
Yeah, so you don't want to go for everything at once. You want to get small commitments to keep them on the phone. So the first thing is like, what carrier did they end up like have you go with? And they'll say whatever. Oh, dang it! I hate when that happens. Okay, and how much were they charging you? And they'll say whatever it is. Oh my gosh, that's super expensive. I mean, was that did they have you going with them because you had like cancer, strokes, or heart attacks, or? And they say no, I don't. So they're defending themselves, and so you're kind of like on the same side of the table there, where it's like no, I don't. So they're defending their health rather than like trying to like rebuttal you, if that makes sense. So what you do then is like you just keep going, and you end up just asking high level medical questions at that point. And in my head, like as you become more experienced as an agent, you'll understand what's going to be work and what not, and like what it actually looks like. So you'll understand pricings, you'll understand like certain medical issues are going to be approved by certain carriers. So if there's something off, there's going to be something ringing in your head that's like gabapentin, insulin, Mutual of Omaha, day one? That there's no way. Like, wow. Like, I don't even know how this even happened. What's good is Mutual of Omaha is actually in our network. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually get them on the line just to verify that you have what you say you have, just so we're able to make sure you're in the best possible position, okay? Please hold. And then I just like add them to the line there. And then you go through, hey, so once you get on the phone, hey, my name is Johnny. I'm actually with my friend here, Mr. Dave. We just wanted to make sure that he had the policy that he says he has. He said, and then they'll ask for like, hey, what's your, whatever, like what's the policy number? And then they'll say whatever it is, verify it. And then in those times, you'll actually see, okay, and you said that it, just to make sure the application said not a smoker, correct? And they'll be like, yes or no. And then you can kind of like see at each stage, verify all the information on the application at that point. And then if not, then they're selling it for you, right? So what they say is, they'll be like, did you hear that, Ms. Johnson? You only have 10,000 in coverage, and you thought you had 20,000. Did you hear that? Oh my gosh, yeah. And then you kind of like get off the line, and you're able to help them with the policy there.
Beautiful. One last question for Johnny, to wrap it up.
Johnny, when would you say is a good time for an agent to start considering marketing and, you know, becoming a marketer and, you know, generating their own leads?
When you're selling 5 to 10 policies a week. If you aren't closing $20,000 a month, marketing is another realm that like you have to be good at marketing, because there's good marketers and there's bad marketers. And when I say bad marketers, the margin is so like crazy. It's like 10% is good and 90% are horrible. And so like I think you have to be good at marketing and understand that completely. So if not, have somebody else help you out with that and focus on sales. And then at least you have that covered, have the benefits of generating your own leads.
Thank you.
Johnny, where can people go to find out more about you?
YouTube is the best spot, Johnny Nitafan. I also have Instagram as well, post reels on there, but that's Johnny Nitafan as well, Johnnny, last name Nitafan, Nitafan. One thing that I really enjoy, a lot of people say they enjoy, is top producer interviews that we've done, and we've interviewed tons and tons and tons of people in the industry. They've just other people as well. So definitely check that out. Got a huge database in there.
Cool. Johnny, thank you.